The city is sleeping. A thin layer of fog drifts between rows of brick houses. Gas lamps glow softly along narrow streets. Their yellow light hangs in the damp air like small floating stars. Most windows are dark. Most doors are closed. Only the distant sound of a horse's hooves echoes through the quiet night. Far above the rooftops, a few clouds move slowly across the moon. Everything seems peaceful. Yet inside many small Victorian homes, morning is already approaching. In only a few hours, children will wake. Some are still dreaming beneath worn blankets. Some sleep beside brothers and sisters in crowded rooms. Some rest on simple mattresses filled with straw. Others sleep on narrow beds pushed against cold walls. The room is quiet except for slow breathing. A small fire in the hearth has almost gone out. The last orange glow fades beneath gray ash. Outside, the city remains still. But not for long. For many Victorian children, childhood was not a time of long carefree days. Work waited for them. Responsibility waited for them. The world often expected them to become useful as early as possible. As the 19th century moved forward, Britain changed rapidly. Factories grew larger. Cities expanded. Railways stretched across the countryside. New machines appeared. Industry filled the air with smoke and noise. The country was becoming wealthier in many ways. But for ordinary families, life often remained difficult. Many parents worked long hours. Money was rarely plentiful. Every coin mattered. Every meal mattered. Every day required effort. In countless homes, children became part of that effort. The first light of morning begins to appear. The sky slowly shifts from black to dark blue. A rooster calls somewhere beyond the city. Another answers. Then another. The day begins. Inside a small brick house, a young girl opens her eyes. The room feels cold. She pulls a thin blanket closer for a moment. Then she remembers the hour. She cannot stay in bed. There is work to do. She quietly stands. The wooden floor creaks beneath her feet. Nearby, her younger brother continues sleeping. His face remains peaceful. For now, he has another hour before waking. The girl dresses in the dim light. Her clothes are simple. Nothing fancy. Nothing unnecessary. Practical clothing for a practical life. Downstairs, her mother is already awake. A kettle hangs above a small fire. The smell of tea begins to fill the room. Soon there will be bread. Perhaps a little porridge. Perhaps only tea and a crust of yesterday's loaf. The meal depends on the family. It depends on the week. It depends on money. Breakfast is quiet. There is little conversation. Everyone is still waking. Everyone knows what the day requires. Outside, the street slowly comes alive. Doors open. Workers emerge. Carts begin rolling over cobblestones. Factory whistles sound in the distance. Their long cries drift across neighborhoods and rooftops. Children hear them too. For some, those whistles signal the beginning of another working day. Today, it is easy to imagine childhood as a separate stage of life. A protected time. A period of learning and play. But Victorian society often viewed childhood differently. Many families could not afford years of leisure. Children were expected to contribute when they could. Even small tasks mattered. Even young hands could earn money. In cities, boys and girls found work in many places. Factories. Workshops. Markets. Shops. Homes. street corners. Some carried messages. Some sold newspapers. Some cleaned equipment. Some delivered goods. Some helped skilled workers complete daily tasks. Their jobs varied. But one thing connected many of them. They learned responsibility very early. The sun rises higher. Golden light reaches the tops of buildings. Windows brighten. The city fully awakens. A young boy hurries down a narrow lane. His shoes strike the stones below. His breath forms small clouds in the cool air. He carries a basket. Inside are goods for delivery. He knows the route well. He has walked it countless times. Past bakeries. Past stables. Past market stalls. Past rows of houses that all seem nearly identical. The journey has become routine. Many Victorian children lived by routines. The same roads. The same schedules. The same duties. Day after day. Week after week. The rhythm of life rarely changed. Yet within those routines existed entire worlds. Small observations. Tiny moments. Simple experiences. The smell of fresh bread from a bakery. The warmth of sunlight against a brick wall. The sound of church bells drifting through morning air. The sight of pigeons gathering in a square. Even busy children noticed these things. Sometimes only briefly. But they noticed. Life moved slowly in some ways. Even in growing industrial cities. Walking remained common. Horse-drawn transportation filled the streets. Deliveries required time. Communication required patience. Distances felt longer. Days often felt longer too. For working children, the hours stretched ahead. Morning blended into afternoon. Afternoon slowly became evening. And then the cycle began again. Far from the cities, village children experienced a different world. The countryside moved at another pace. Fields replaced factories. Birdsong replaced machinery. Open skies replaced crowded rooftops. Yet work still remained a central part of daily life. A farm rarely rested. Animals needed care. Fields required attention. Tools needed repair. Food needed preparation. Every family member contributed. Children often learned these responsibilities naturally. A boy might help guide animals. A girl might assist with household work. Older children often cared for younger siblings. Tasks changed with the seasons. Spring brought planting. Summer brought growth. Autumn brought harvest. Winter brought preparation and maintenance. The cycle continued year after year. The work could be tiring. But it was familiar. Predictable. Part of everyday life. Back in the city, morning slowly becomes midday. Smoke rises from factory chimneys. The air grows warmer. Crowds fill the streets. The sounds of labor echo everywhere. Hammering. Wheels turning. Voices calling. Doors opening and closing. The city hums with activity. Inside workshops, apprentices learn trades. Some began surprisingly young. A child might spend years learning a craft. Printing. Tailoring. Carpentry. Metalwork. Skills passed from one generation to another. The work required patience. Observation. Practice. Mistakes were expected. Improvement came gradually. A master craftsman taught lessons over many years. The child slowly became a skilled worker. These apprenticeships offered opportunities. Yet they also demanded discipline. Long hours were common. Expectations were clear. The transition from child to adult often felt gradual and quick at the same time. Responsibility arrived early. Experience arrived early. The Victorian world rarely paused for long. As afternoon light spreads across the city, children continue their duties. Some carry packages. Some assist customers. Some sort materials. Some sweep floors. Some run errands between businesses. Their lives are busy. Yet moments of childhood still appear. A quick smile. A shared joke. A race down a side street. A game played during a short break. Children remained children, even when responsibilities surrounded them. Human nature does not disappear simply because life becomes difficult. Laughter still existed. Friendship still existed. Curiosity still existed. Small moments of joy found their way into busy days. And so the afternoon continues. The city breathes. The streets remain crowded. The hours pass slowly beneath a pale Victorian sky. And as evening begins its gentle approach, many young workers look toward home, where another part of the day still awaits them. The lamps will soon glow again. The fires will soon be lit. The city will gradually quiet. And countless children, already carrying responsibilities beyond their years, will prepare for another night of rest before tomorrow arrives once more. Evening settles slowly across the Victorian city. The bright activity of the afternoon begins to soften. The sun lowers behind rows of chimneys and rooftops. Long shadows stretch across the streets. The air cools little by little, and a faint layer of smoke hangs above the city like a quiet gray blanket. Workers make their way home. The sound of footsteps fills the roads. Horse carts rumble over cobblestones. Shopkeepers begin closing doors. Market sellers gather the last of their goods. And among the adults moving through the streets are children returning from long days of work. Some walk alone. Some travel with brothers or sisters. Some carry small bags or baskets. Others have nothing in their hands except tiredness. A young boy turns onto a familiar street. He has followed this route so many times that he hardly needs to think about it anymore. The buildings are familiar. The windows are familiar. Even the cracks in the pavement seem familiar. As he walks, warm yellow light begins appearing in windows. Families are preparing supper. Small fires burn inside hearts. The smell of cooking drifts into the street. Bread. Soup. Stew. Tea. Simple meals. Comforting meals. Meals that mark the end of another day. For many Victorian families, supper was one of the few times everyone gathered together. Work scattered people throughout the day. Parents worked. Children worked. Older brothers and sisters worked. But evening brought them back beneath the same roof. The home itself was often modest. Many city families lived in small houses or crowded apartments. Rooms served many purposes. A kitchen might also be a dining room. A dining room might become a sleeping space at night. Furniture was practical. Nothing wasted space. Nothing unnecessary occupied precious room. Yet even simple homes could feel welcoming after a long day. A warm fire. A familiar chair. The sound of family members talking quietly. These things mattered. A young girl enters her home. Her mother is stirring a pot over the fire. Steam rises into the room. The scent is comforting. Not rich. Not extravagant. Simply warm. Simply filling. The girl removes her coat and helps prepare the table. She has done this countless times before. The movements are natural. Plates are arranged. Bread is sliced. Cups are placed carefully. Outside, darkness slowly deepens. Inside, candlelight begins to glow. The small flame dances gently. Shadows move across walls. The room feels peaceful. For a little while, work is finished. For a little while, everyone can rest. Victorian children often carried responsibilities that would surprise many people today. Yet responsibility was not always viewed as unusual. In many communities, it was simply expected. A child learned by participating. A child became capable by helping. Daily life taught lessons constantly. A boy helping in a shop learned numbers. A girl assisting with household duties learned organization. Children learned patience. They learned routine. They learned endurance. Not through formal lessons alone, but through daily experience. The world around them became their classroom. As supper continues, conversation fills the room. Perhaps a father speaks about work. Perhaps a mother discusses tomorrow's tasks. Perhaps children share small stories from the day. Nothing dramatic. Nothing extraordinary. Simple moments. The kinds of conversations that quietly disappear into history. Yet these ordinary moments formed much of Victorian life. History often remembers famous people. It remembers leaders, inventors, writers, politicians. But most people lived lives far removed from fame. Most people worried about ordinary things. Food, rent, weather, work, family. The same concerns appeared again and again across thousands of homes. As night grows darker, the city changes. The busiest streets remain active. But quieter neighborhoods begin settling down. Windows close. Doors lock. Voices soften. The pace slows. Gas lamps shine along roads and alleyways. Their light reflects faintly on damp stones. The city feels different now. Calmer. More reflective. A young newspaper seller finally finishes his day. He has spent hours standing on busy corners. Hours calling out headlines. Hours watching crowds pass by. Now he walks home through streets growing quieter with every step. His legs feel tired. His shoulders feel heavy. Yet there is comfort in knowing the day is ending. Many Victorian children knew this feeling well. The satisfaction of reaching evening. The relief of sitting down. The simple pleasure of rest. Work shaped much of their lives. But rest became precious because of it. Back inside countless homes, preparations for sleep begin. Beds are made ready. Candles burn lower. Children wash faces and hands. Parents finish final tasks before bed. The household gradually becomes quieter. In some homes, several children share a single room. In others, entire families sleep close together. Privacy is limited. Space is limited. Yet closeness creates its own kind of comfort. The familiar sounds of family surround them. Slow breathing. Quiet whispers. Floorboards creaking softly. The crackle of a fading fire. Outside, rain begins to fall. Only lightly at first. Tiny drops tap against windows. The sound is gentle. Steady. Almost soothing. A little girl lies beneath a blanket listening. The day has been long. Her eyes grow heavy. The rain continues. The room grows darker. Sleep slowly arrives. Across the city, thousands of children experience similar evenings. Different homes. Different families. Different circumstances. Yet the rhythm remains familiar. Work. Home. Supper. Rest. Sleep. Then morning begins the cycle again. Not all Victorian children lived in cities. Many grew up in small villages where life followed the seasons more closely. There, evenings carried a different atmosphere. The air smelled of fields rather than factories. The sounds of animals replaced the sounds of machinery. Night arrived quietly. Without bright city lights, darkness spread quickly across the countryside. A young farm boy finishes caring for animals. The sky above him glows with the last colors of sunset. Orange. Pink. Soft gold. Birds settle into trees. The fields become still. The day finally slows. He walks toward home. The path is familiar. Grass moves gently in the evening breeze. The world feels peaceful. Inside the farmhouse, warmth fills the kitchen. A fire burns steadily. A pot simmers nearby. Family members gather around a table. The day's work is discussed. Plans for tomorrow are considered. Life follows patterns shaped by nature. The weather matters. The harvest matters. The seasons matter. Children learn these rhythms from an early age. They understand when planting begins. They understand when crops are ready. They understand when winter preparation must start. Knowledge passes quietly between generations. Not through books alone, but through observation. Through participation. Through everyday experience. As night deepens, the countryside becomes wonderfully silent. The wind moves through trees. An owl calls somewhere in the distance. Stars appear overhead. Without city smoke, the sky seems endless. Children fall asleep listening to the sounds of nature. The experience differs from city life. Yet responsibility remains present here too. Growing up often happens quickly when families depend on every member. And so childhood unfolds alongside work. Alongside duty. Alongside learning. The Victorian era was a world of constant change. New inventions appeared. Railways expanded. Factories multiplied. Cities grew larger every year. Yet beneath these great changes, ordinary life continued. People still woke early. People still prepared meals. People still cared for families. Children still learned how to contribute to the households around them. These everyday experiences shaped countless lives. Far more than major political events. Far more than famous speeches. History often moves quietly. It moves through kitchens. Through workshops. Through schools. Through farms. Through ordinary homes where people simply try to build a life. Late at night, the city finally grows still. Most windows are dark now. The streets are nearly empty. Only a few lamps remain glowing in the darkness. The rain has stopped. The air feels cool and fresh. Clouds drift slowly across the sky. Inside homes, children sleep deeply. Tomorrow will arrive soon enough. Another morning. Another routine. Another day filled with familiar responsibilities. But for now, there is only rest. Only quiet. Only the gentle peace of night. The city breathes softly beneath the darkness. The rooftops sit silent beneath the stars. And countless Victorian children, who often carried responsibilities far beyond their years, drift peacefully through sleep while the world around them finally grows calm. The night slowly passes. Hours drift by almost unnoticed. Clouds move quietly above rooftops. The last glow of dying fires fades into darkness. The city rests. For a little while, even the busiest streets belong to silence. Then, far away, the first signs of morning begin again. A faint pale color appears along the horizon. The darkness softens. The rooftops emerge from shadow. Another Victorian day is about to begin. Inside a small house near a factory district, a young boy stirs beneath his blanket. The room is cool. The air carries the faint scent of coal smoke that never fully leaves the neighborhood. He opens his eyes. For a moment he lies still. The house remains quiet. Then he hears movement downstairs. His mother is already awake. The day has started. He rises from bed. The floor feels cold beneath his feet. Around him, brothers and sisters begin waking as well. Nobody moves quickly. There is a certain heaviness that comes with early mornings. A certain quiet acceptance. The same routine has happened hundreds of times before. Soon they gather downstairs. A kettle warms above the fire. Simple food waits on the table. Nothing fancy. Nothing wasted. Every meal serves a purpose. Bread. Tea. Porridge when available. The family eats together before the day pulls everyone in different directions. Outside, dawn spreads across the city. Workers appear from doorways. The streets slowly fill. Horse carts begin moving once again. Factory chimneys release fresh streams of smoke into the morning sky. The city wakes like a giant machine. Each person becoming a small moving part within it. Among those moving parts are children. Many Victorian children attended school when circumstances allowed. Education gradually became more available during the 19th century. Yet for countless families, work and schooling often existed side by side. A child might spend part of the day learning and another part helping earn money. The balance depended on the family, the location, the year, and the opportunities available. A young girl walks toward a school building. Her books are tucked beneath one arm. The streets around her are already busy. She passes shopkeepers preparing for the day. She passes workers heading toward factories. She passes delivery carts loaded with goods. Everything feels alive with motion. The school itself is simple. Rows of desks fill a large room. Tall windows allow sunlight inside. A teacher stands at the front. Children take their seats. The room gradually grows quiet. Lessons begin. Reading. Writing. Arithmetic. The basics of education. Skills that many parents hoped would create better opportunities for their children. The classroom has its own atmosphere. The scratching of pencils. The turning of pages. The occasional creak of wooden desks. The steady voice of the teacher. Outside, the city continues moving. Inside, children focus on learning. For some, school represents possibility. For others, it is simply another responsibility in an already busy life. The Victorian era placed great value on discipline. This idea appeared in many places. Homes. Schools. Workplaces. Children were often expected to behave respectfully and work hard. Adults frequently believed that strong habits developed strong character. Whether in classrooms or workshops, effort was considered important. Responsibility was considered important. Duty was considered important. These values shaped daily life. A young boy sits carefully copying words onto paper. Sunlight falls across his desk. Dust drifts through beams of light. The room feels warm now. The morning continues quietly. Outside, bells ring somewhere in the distance. The city carries on. Hours pass. Lessons continue. Eventually midday arrives. Children leave the classroom for a short break. The fresh air feels good. Voices fill the yard. Friends gather together. Conversations begin. Games appear naturally. Even children carrying serious responsibilities still find moments to laugh. Still find moments to play. Childhood never completely disappears. It simply shares space with other expectations. The break ends. Students return inside. The day continues. Elsewhere in the city, another child spends the morning very differently. A young apprentice enters a workshop. The familiar smell of wood fills the air. Tools hang neatly on walls. Workbenches stand ready. Sunlight enters through dusty windows. The apprentice has been learning here for several years. At first, he performed only simple tasks. Sweeping floors. Organizing materials. Watching experienced workers. Now he does more. Carefully. Slowly. Skill develops one step at a time. The master craftsman demonstrates a technique. The apprentice observes closely. Every movement matters. Every detail teaches something useful. The process cannot be rushed. Experience grows through repetition. Through patience. Through time. This was true for countless apprentices throughout Victorian Britain. Learning a trade often meant spending years under the guidance of skilled adults. Children gradually moved toward adulthood through daily practice. Not through sudden changes, but through thousands of ordinary days. The workshop remains busy. Hammering echoes softly. Wood shavings gather on the floor. Workers focus on their tasks. The apprentice continues learning. Mistakes happen. Corrections follow. Improvement comes little by little. Outside, afternoon sunlight brightens the streets. The city reaches its busiest hours. Markets fill with customers. Shop doors remain open. Factories continue operating. Carriages move steadily through crowded roads. Life flows forward. In one neighborhood, a young girl helps her mother manage household responsibilities. Not every form of work took place outside the home. The household itself required constant effort. Meals needed preparation. Clothing needed repair. Rooms needed cleaning. Water needed carrying. Children often assisted with these daily duties. The girl carefully folds laundry. Nearby, bread bakes in the oven. The warm scent fills the room. The fire crackles gently. Her younger brother plays quietly in a corner. Occasionally she pauses to help him, then returns to her task. The rhythm feels familiar, comforting in its own way. Many skills passed from parent to child through these everyday moments. Cooking, sewing, cleaning, organization. Practical knowledge moved naturally through family life. Generation after generation. Outside the window, sunlight slowly begins to soften. The afternoon moves toward evening. The pace of the day changes almost imperceptibly. Shadows lengthen. The air cools. The city prepares for another night. Victorian childhood often existed within this constant movement between work and learning. Between responsibility and growth. Between dependence and independence. Children gradually took on greater duties as they became older. A boy who once carried small deliveries might later manage larger responsibilities. A girl who once helped with simple chores might later oversee complex household tasks. Expectations increased steadily. The transition was rarely announced. It simply happened. One responsibility after another. 1 year after another. A child slowly became an adult. Many families viewed this process as natural, necessary. Life required contribution from everyone who could provide it. Resources were limited. Opportunities varied. Hard work often felt essential for survival. As evening approaches once again, lamps begin appearing throughout the city. Their warm glow spreads across streets and windows. The familiar rhythm returns. Workers head home. Shops close. Markets quiet. The long day gradually releases its grip. A young newspaper seller counts the few coins he earned. Nearby, another child helps lock the door of a small shop. Across town, an apprentice carefully cleans tools before leaving the workshop. Elsewhere, a student finishes homework beside candlelight. Different lives. Different experiences. Yet all connected by the same era. The same growing industrial world. The same expectations surrounding work and responsibility. Inside countless homes, supper preparations begin once more. The smell of cooking drifts through neighborhoods. Families gather. Stories are shared. The events of the day are discussed. Simple conversations fill small rooms. Outside, darkness slowly settles. Inside, warmth and familiarity provide comfort. A father speaks quietly about work. A mother plans tomorrow's tasks. Children listen. Sometimes they contribute. Sometimes they simply enjoy the peace of being home. The fire glows steadily. Candles flicker. The evening unfolds at its own gentle pace. These moments mattered deeply. Not because history recorded them. Not because they changed nations. But because they shaped lives. The ordinary moments of family life became the foundation upon which everything else rested. A child remembered the smell of supper. The warmth of a fire. The sound of familiar voices. These memories often remained long after specific workdays faded from memory. Outside, rain begins falling softly. Tiny droplets tap against rooftops. The streets shine beneath gas lamps. Reflections shimmer across wet stones. The city grows quieter. People move indoors. Doors close. Curtains are drawn. Night takes hold. One by one, children prepare for sleep. Some are already exhausted. Others linger a little longer beside the fire. Eventually even they grow tired. Beds await. Blankets await. Rest awaits. The day is finished. The city becomes still. Rain continues its gentle rhythm. The sound drifts through open chimneys and against windows. A soothing background to the night. Children settle beneath blankets. Eyes close. Breathing slows. The responsibilities of the day fade away. For a few peaceful hours, there are no errands. No lessons. No chores. No expectations. Only sleep. Only dreams. Only the quiet comfort of night. And above the sleeping city, clouds drift slowly across the dark Victorian sky as another generation of children rests before waking to continue the steady journey toward adulthood that began far earlier than many would expect. Morning arrives once again with quiet certainty. The darkness retreats from the rooftops. A pale silver light spreads slowly across the city. Fog lingers in narrow streets. The air feels cool and damp. For a few peaceful moments, the world seems almost still. Then the familiar sounds begin. A door opens. Footsteps cross a stone path. A horse pulls a cart through the mist. Somewhere in the distance, a factory whistle calls out into the morning air. Another day has begun. Inside a crowded brick house, a family slowly wakes. The room is small. Several children sleep close together. Blankets are folded back. Eyes blink open. The youngest child remains asleep for a few moments longer while older brothers and sisters prepare for the day. There is no rushing. No dramatic urgency. Only routine. A routine repeated so many times that everyone knows exactly what comes next. The mother tends the fire. The father prepares for work. The children dress quietly. Soon the smell of tea begins to fill the room. Simple breakfast waits on the table. The meal is modest. Yet it provides warmth. It provides comfort. It provides the energy needed for the long hours ahead. Outside, the city grows brighter. Factory chimneys release dark ribbons of smoke into the morning sky. Rows of buildings emerge from the fading fog. Workers appear along the roads. Some walk alone. Others travel together. Children move among them. Many are heading toward places where they will spend most of the day. Workshops. Shops. Markets. Factories. Schools. Every path forms part of a larger rhythm. Every person contributes to the life of the city. A young girl walks beside her older sister. Their shoes tap softly against the pavement. The streets are familiar. Every corner brings memories of previous mornings. The bakery where warm bread is sold. The narrow alley that shortens the journey. The small shop with colorful items displayed in the window. These ordinary landmarks become part of daily life. Part of childhood. Part of growing up. As they walk, the city slowly comes alive around them. Shopkeepers unlock doors. Vendors arrange goods. Customers begin appearing. Voices rise and fall. The day unfolds naturally. Victorian cities could feel enormous to children. Buildings stretched in every direction. Crowds filled the streets. New construction seemed constant. The industrial age was transforming entire landscapes. Neighborhoods expanded. Railway lines reached farther every year. Factories became larger. Yet within this vast and changing world, most children lived very local lives. Their daily routes rarely changed. Their routines remained familiar. Their world often centered around home, work, school, and nearby streets. A child might know every crack in a sidewalk. Every shop owner on a particular road. Every shortcut between familiar places. The larger city existed around them, but daily life unfolded within smaller circles. Inside a textile workshop, the morning progresses steadily. Sunlight filters through tall windows. Dust drifts quietly through beams of light. Workers focus on their tasks. The atmosphere is serious but familiar. A young apprentice moves carefully between tables. He has learned where everything belongs. He understands the expectations. He understands the rhythm. Years earlier, much of this would have seemed confusing. Now it feels natural. This gradual adjustment happened to many Victorian children. Responsibilities that once felt difficult eventually became ordinary. Skills developed slowly. Confidence grew slowly. Knowledge accumulated one day at a time. There was rarely a single moment when a child suddenly became grown. Instead, adulthood arrived through countless small experiences. Each task completed. Each lesson learned. Each responsibility accepted. By afternoon, the city hums with activity. The streets are crowded. Carriages move through intersections. Workers carry supplies. Customers visit shops. The pace feels steady and constant. Some children spend these hours in classrooms. Others spend them learning trades. Others assist parents in family businesses. Many experiences differed. Yet one common thread connected countless young people. Life encouraged maturity early. A young boy helps his father at a small market stall. The work is not complicated, but it requires attention. Customers arrive throughout the day. Questions must be answered. Goods must be arranged. Money must be counted carefully. The boy watches closely. He observes every interaction. Over time he learns how the business operates. He learns how adults communicate. He learns responsibility through participation. No formal lesson explains everything. The experience itself becomes the teacher. Nearby, another child carries a basket through busy streets. The route is familiar. The task is familiar. Yet every day contains small differences. Different weather. Different customers. Different conversations. Different sights. The city changes constantly even while routines remain the same. Clouds drift overhead. Sunlight brightens brick walls. A dog sleeps beside a doorway. Children notice these things. Even during busy days. Even while focused on work. The world around them remains full of small details. As afternoon slowly deepens, warmth settles over the city. The sunlight softens. Shadows lengthen. The pace begins to change. Not suddenly. Gradually. Almost unnoticed. In a rural village many miles away, another kind of afternoon unfolds. Fields stretch toward the horizon. The air smells of earth and growing crops. Birds move through the sky. A gentle breeze bends tall grass. Life here follows different rhythms. The industrial world feels distant. Nature shapes the schedule more directly. A young farm girl walks along a narrow path carrying a basket. She moves past stone walls and open fields. The sounds around her are peaceful. Birdsong. Wind. The distant call of livestock. The landscape feels wide and calm. Yet work remains present here as well. Animals require care. Gardens require attention. Households require effort. Children contribute where they can. The responsibilities may differ from those found in cities, but the expectation remains familiar. Everyone helps. Everyone participates. Everyone learns through doing. The girl reaches home. Smoke rises from the chimney. The scent of baking drifts through the air. The kitchen feels warm and welcoming. Family members move through familiar routines. Each person knows their role. Each task supports the household. Generations work together. Knowledge passes naturally from older hands to younger ones. A mother demonstrates a skill. A grandmother shares advice. A father explains a practical task. Children observe. Children imitate. Children learn. The process feels almost effortless. Years pass this way. Little by little, experience accumulates. Back in the city, evening approaches once more. Factory whistles echo across neighborhoods. Workers begin leaving their jobs. The streets shift as people head home. The mood changes. The busiest hours are ending. The city exhales. A young apprentice steps outside after a long day. The fresh evening air feels pleasant. The sky glows with soft colors. Orange near the horizon. Blue above. Thin clouds drift slowly overhead. For a moment he pauses. The day has been demanding. Yet there is satisfaction in familiar accomplishment. Tasks completed. Lessons learned. Responsibilities fulfilled. These feelings become important parts of growing up. Victorian childhood often involved balancing effort with endurance. Children learned how to continue even when tired. How to contribute even when work felt repetitive. How to accept responsibilities that arrived earlier than many modern children might expect. This did not mean every moment was difficult. Far from it. Joy remained present. Friendships remained present. Family affection remained present. Children still found opportunities for play. Still shared stories. Still imagined futures. Still laughed together. Human nature remained unchanged. Even within demanding circumstances. As twilight settles across the city, lamps begin to glow. Their warm light appears one by one along the streets. Windows shine softly. The evening feels calm. Comfortable. Predictable. Families gather for supper. Conversations fill kitchens and dining rooms. The events of the day are exchanged. Parents listen. Children speak. Sometimes the stories are important. Sometimes they are small observations that would seem insignificant to anyone else. Yet these simple exchanges strengthen family bonds. A boy talks about something he learned. A girl describes a customer she met. A younger child proudly shares a tiny achievement. The adults smile. The conversation continues. Outside, darkness deepens. Inside, warmth remains. Many Victorian homes were modest. Space could be limited. Furniture could be simple. Money could be scarce. Yet people still created comfort where they could. A clean table. A warm meal. A repaired blanket. A carefully tended fire. These small things mattered greatly. They transformed houses into homes. The evening progresses slowly. Candles flicker. The fire glows. Rain begins tapping gently against windows. The sound is soft. Almost musical. Children grow sleepy. One by one they prepare for bed. The youngest often fall asleep first. Older children remain awake a little longer. Perhaps finishing a small task. Perhaps reading. Perhaps simply sitting quietly beside the fire. Eventually they too become tired. Blankets are pulled close. Candles are extinguished. Rooms grow dark. Outside, the city settles into silence. Only occasional footsteps disturb the quiet streets. The rain continues. Steady. Gentle. Comforting. Within countless homes, children sleep peacefully. Tomorrow will bring another familiar day. Another collection of routines. Another series of responsibilities. Another step in the gradual journey from childhood toward adulthood. And as the rain falls softly across rooftops and cobblestones, the sleeping city drifts through the night beneath a sky hidden behind slow-moving clouds. The rain continues for much of the night. It falls softly across rooftops and chimneys. It washes the dust from narrow streets. It gathers in small puddles along cobblestones. The city sleeps beneath the steady rhythm of water. Inside countless homes, children rest quietly. Blankets rise and fall with slow breathing. The worries of the day have faded for a few precious hours. Outside, the world waits patiently for morning. Eventually the rain slows. The clouds begin to drift apart. A few stars appear above the city. Then more. The night grows calm once again. Far away, a church bell marks the passing hours. Its sound travels through the darkness. Gentle. Lonely. Peaceful. Time moves forward. Slowly. Almost unnoticed. When dawn finally returns, the city emerges from the wet night. The streets shine faintly beneath the first light. Rainwater reflects pale colors from the sky. The air feels cleaner. Cooler. Fresh. A new day begins. In a small house near the edge of a factory district, a young boy wakes before sunrise. The room remains dim. The windows hold only a faint gray glow. He rubs his eyes and listens. The house is already stirring. His parents are awake. An older sister is quietly preparing for the day. The familiar routine unfolds once again. There is comfort in routine. Even when it demands much. Even when it leaves little room for rest. People often find security in knowing what comes next. Victorian families were no different. Many days followed patterns that changed very little. Morning meal. Work. School. Chores. Supper. Sleep. Then morning returned again. The repetition shaped entire lives. The boy dresses carefully. His clothes are simple but clean. His mother takes pride in keeping the family presentable despite limited means. Small acts of care matter. A mended sleeve. A polished shoe. A neatly brushed coat. These details reflect effort. They reflect dignity. They reflect love. Downstairs, breakfast waits. The family gathers around the table. The room feels warm compared to the cool morning outside. Steam rises from cups. Bread is shared. Conversation remains quiet. Everyone is still waking. Everyone is preparing mentally for the hours ahead. Soon the meal ends. The day begins. Outside, workers move through the streets. The city awakens with familiar sounds. Wheels rolling. Doors opening. Footsteps echoing against brick walls. Factory whistles calling across neighborhoods. The industrial city breathes deeply and begins another day. For many Victorian children, growing up happened within these surroundings. Smoke drifting from chimneys. Crowded streets. Rows of nearly identical houses. The constant movement of people and goods. These sights became ordinary. Part of everyday life. A child might not think much about them at all. Just as people today rarely notice every familiar detail around them. The extraordinary often becomes ordinary when seen every day. A young girl walks with her mother toward a busy market. The streets gradually fill with activity. Vendors arrange vegetables. Butchers prepare displays. Customers arrive carrying baskets. Voices blend together into a steady background hum. The market feels alive. Busy but organized. Chaotic yet familiar. The girl helps her mother carry supplies. Along the way she learns practical lessons. How to compare prices. How to recognize quality. How to speak politely with customers and sellers. These small skills become valuable. Much of childhood learning happened this way. Not through formal instruction, but through observation. Through participation. Through experience. A child watches. A child helps. A child gradually understands. Many Victorian parents believed strongly in preparation. The future could be uncertain. Work opportunities could change. Economic hardships could appear without warning. Teaching children practical skills felt important, necessary, a form of protection against an unpredictable world. As a result, many young people accepted responsibilities earlier than modern childhood often allows. Not because families lacked affection. Quite the opposite. Many parents viewed responsibility as part of caring for their children. A way to help them become capable adults. A way to prepare them for life. The morning continues. Clouds drift slowly overhead. Sunlight breaks through from time to time. The city settles into its daily rhythm. In one neighborhood, a school bell rings. Children enter classrooms. Books are opened. Lessons begin. Rows of desks fill with students. The teacher's voice rises gently above the quiet room. Education during the Victorian era changed significantly over time. More children gradually gained access to schooling. More families recognized the value of literacy. Reading and writing became increasingly important skills in a rapidly changing society. For some children, school represented opportunity. A doorway toward different futures. For others, education existed alongside work. The two responsibilities sharing the same day. A young student carefully copies words onto a slate. His concentration is complete. The task seems simple. Yet each letter represents progress. Each lesson expands his understanding of the world. Outside the classroom window, life continues. Carriages pass. Workers move through the streets. Smoke rises from distant chimneys. The city remains busy. But inside, the room feels calm. Focused. Orderly. Hours pass quietly. The steady rhythm of learning creates its own atmosphere. A peaceful atmosphere. One built from patience and repetition. Elsewhere, another child spends the day learning entirely different lessons. An apprentice stands beside an experienced craftsman. Wood fills the workshop with its rich scent. Tools hang neatly nearby. Sunlight filters through dusty glass. The craftsman demonstrates a technique. The apprentice watches closely. Every movement matters. Every detail contains knowledge. The lesson requires no textbook. No examination. Only observation. Practice. And time. The apprentice repeats the task. Carefully. Slowly. A mistake occurs. The craftsman offers guidance. The task begins again. Learning often happened this way. Not instantly. Not dramatically. Just steady improvement over months and years. The workshop remains quiet except for the sounds of work itself. Tools moving. Materials shifting. Occasional conversation. The atmosphere feels calm despite the effort involved. As afternoon approaches, sunlight grows warmer. The city begins to soften beneath the changing light. People continue their routines. Children continue theirs. Some help in shops. Some attend lessons. Some assist family members. Some learn trades. The details vary. The pattern remains familiar. Responsibility accompanies childhood. A young boy pauses beside a river after completing an errand. The water moves slowly. Sunlight sparkles across its surface. For a few moments he simply watches. The world feels still. Peaceful. The river continues flowing. Birds drift overhead. A breeze touches the water. These small pauses mattered. Even busy lives contain moments of quiet. Moments when a child can simply observe. Simply think. Simply exist. History often focuses on large events. Major changes. Important dates. Yet much of life happens within these smaller moments. A pause beside a river. A conversation with family. A walk home beneath evening clouds. These experiences rarely appear in official records. Yet they shape memories. They shape lives. The afternoon gradually becomes evening. Factory whistles sound once more. Workers begin their journeys home. The city changes pace. The busiest hours slowly fade. Shops prepare to close. Markets quiet. The long day begins drawing to a close. Children feel it too. The growing tiredness. The anticipation of supper. The comfort of returning home. A young girl steps through her front door. Warm air greets her immediately. A fire burns in the hearth. The smell of stew fills the room. Her younger siblings are already home. Her mother moves between kitchen tasks. The scene feels familiar. Comforting. Safe. She helps set the table. The family gathers. Outside, darkness spreads across the city. Inside, candlelight glows warmly. Conversation flows gently. Nothing extraordinary happens. No major event. No historic announcement. Only ordinary people sharing an ordinary evening. And yet this is the true heart of history. Most lives are built from ordinary evenings. Most memories come from ordinary rooms. Most childhoods unfold through ordinary days. The Victorian era was no different. As supper ends, children complete final chores. A floor is swept. A coat is hung properly. A younger sibling is helped with a simple task. Small responsibilities continue until bedtime. Then gradually the household settles. The fire burns lower. Candles shorten. Voices soften. The youngest children begin yawning. Sleep approaches. One by one they climb into bed. Outside, the city quiets. The streets empty. The night grows still. A cool breeze moves between buildings. Clouds drift across the moon. The world seems peaceful now. Far calmer than during the busy daylight hours. Children close their eyes. Tomorrow waits beyond the darkness. Another morning. Another collection of routines. Another step forward in the slow process of growing older. And while they sleep beneath worn blankets in modest rooms across the Victorian world, the city itself rests quietly around them, carrying countless dreams through the calm and gentle hours before dawn returns once more. The city rests beneath a blanket of darkness. Only a few lamps remain glowing along the streets. Their soft light reflects on damp stones and quiet windows. Most doors are closed now. Most voices have faded away. The noise of the day has finally settled into silence. Above the rooftops, clouds drift slowly across the night sky. The stars appear and disappear behind them. Everything moves at an unhurried pace. Everything feels calm. Inside countless Victorian homes, families sleep. Parents rest after long days of labor. Children sleep deeply beneath blankets worn smooth by years of use. The rooms are small. The furniture is simple. Yet there is comfort in familiarity. The same walls. The same floorboards. The same sounds each night. A distant clock. The wind moving outside. The gentle breathing of family members nearby. These sounds become part of home. Part of memory. Part of childhood. As the hours pass, the city remains still. Then, little by little, dawn begins its quiet return. A faint gray light touches the horizon. The darkness softens. The outlines of buildings become visible once more. Morning is arriving. Another Victorian day is about to begin. In a narrow row house, a young girl wakes before sunrise. For a moment she remains beneath her blanket. The room feels cool. The air carries a faint smell of coal from nearby chimneys. Outside, the streets are still mostly empty. The city has not fully awakened yet. She listens to the silence. It is one of the quietest moments of the day. Soon the streets will fill. Soon the whistles will sound. Soon responsibilities will begin again. But for now there is only stillness. Only the soft beginning of morning. Downstairs, her mother has already lit the fire. The small flames flicker gently. Their warmth slowly spreads through the room. Breakfast preparation begins. Nothing elaborate. Nothing wasteful. Simple foods prepared with care. The family gathers gradually. One by one they take their places around the table. The routine feels familiar. Comforting. Predictable. Many Victorian families relied heavily on routine. Routine helped organize busy lives. Routine helped manage limited resources. Routine created stability even during difficult times. Children grew up surrounded by these patterns. They learned them naturally. Almost without thinking. The same tasks. The same schedules. The same expectations. Day after day. Year after year. Outside, the first workers begin appearing in the streets. The city slowly comes alive. A cart rattles over cobblestones. A door opens nearby. A horse snorts in the cool morning air. The sounds arrive gradually. One at a time. Until the city is fully awake. A young boy steps outside carrying a small satchel. The sky above him glows with the soft colors of sunrise. Pink. Gold. Pale blue. For a few moments the city seems beautiful in a quiet way. The smoke has not yet thickened. The crowds have not yet gathered. The streets belong to the morning. He begins walking. The route is familiar. Every building along the way feels like an old acquaintance. He passes the bakery. The blacksmith's shop. The grocer. The church. The same landmarks greet him every day. Children often develop deep familiarity with their neighborhoods. Their worlds could be surprisingly small in geographical terms, yet rich in detail. Every corner carried memories. Every street contained stories. Every building played a role in daily life. As he continues walking, sunlight spreads across the rooftops. The day brightens. The city becomes busy once again. In another neighborhood, a family prepares for market day. This weekly routine holds special importance. Markets provide food, supplies, news, conversation, a chance to see neighbors and friends. The mother gathers baskets. The children help carry items. Everyone contributes. Everyone has a role. These small responsibilities teach valuable lessons. Lessons about cooperation. Lessons about trust. Lessons about community. Many Victorian children learned early that families functioned best when everyone helped. The expectation was rarely questioned. It simply felt normal. A natural part of life. At the market, activity fills every corner. Voices rise and fall. Customers move between stalls. Fresh vegetables sit beside baskets of fruit. Bread is stacked neatly on wooden tables. The air carries many scents. Fresh produce. Baked goods. Leather. Wood. Smoke from nearby chimneys. The young girl helping her mother observes everything. She listens carefully. She watches transactions. She notices how adults speak to one another. Without realizing it, she is learning. Not from formal lessons, but from experience. Experience becomes one of childhood's greatest teachers. The market remains busy throughout the morning. Then gradually the crowds begin thinning. People return home carrying supplies. The routine continues. Back in the factory districts, another kind of morning unfolds. Rows of brick buildings stand beneath drifting smoke. The streets remain crowded. Workers move steadily through the neighborhoods. Many families here live close together. Houses stand side by side. Sometimes entire streets share similar experiences. The same work schedules. The same challenges. The same routines. Communities grow strong under such conditions. Neighbors know one another. Children play together when time allows. Families support each other during difficult periods. Life can be demanding. Yet connections between people provide comfort. A young boy meets a friend while running an errand. They walk together for a short distance. Talking quietly. Sharing small stories. Perhaps discussing work. Perhaps discussing school. Perhaps discussing nothing important at all. Friendship remains important regardless of circumstance. Children always find ways to connect. Always find ways to share experiences. Even brief conversations can brighten a day. As the afternoon approaches, sunlight warms the city. The streets shimmer slightly beneath the growing heat. Windows stand open. Fresh air moves through rooms. Inside homes, household work continues steadily. A mother repairs clothing beside a window. A daughter helps sort fabrics. A younger child watches with curiosity. Needles move carefully. Threads are selected. Small tears are repaired. Nothing is wasted if it can still be useful. This attitude appears throughout Victorian life. Resources matter. Care matters. Maintenance matters. Children learn these lessons repeatedly. They see adults repairing rather than replacing. Saving rather than discarding. Making careful use of what they have. The values become familiar. Part of everyday thinking. Part of growing up. Outside, clouds drift lazily across the sky. The afternoon unfolds at a gentle pace. A delivery boy walks along a canal. The water moves quietly beside him. Boats rest along the edge. The surface reflects sunlight and passing clouds. For a moment he slows his pace. The sight is calming. The water seems untouched by the rush of the city. Steady. Patient. Timeless. Such moments of quiet observation often appear unexpectedly. A child notices birds settling near the water. A reflection dancing across the surface. The breeze moving gently through nearby grass. These simple details remain in memory. Not because they are important, but because they are peaceful. The day continues. Hours pass. Tasks are completed. Responsibilities are met. The familiar rhythm carries everyone forward. Then evening begins its gradual arrival. The sunlight softens. The shadows lengthen. The city starts changing once again. Workers head home. Shops prepare to close. The pace slows. A young apprentice leaves his workshop. His hands show signs of the day's labor. His clothes carry the scent of wood and dust. The work has been demanding. Yet there is satisfaction in progress. Every day teaches something new. Every day adds another small piece to his growing experience. The journey toward adulthood is rarely dramatic. More often it happens quietly. One lesson at a time. One responsibility at a time. One ordinary day at a time. As dusk settles over the city, warm lights appear in windows. Families gather for the evening meal. The familiar comforts of home return. The fire glows. The table fills. Voices mingle softly. Children speak about their day. Parents listen. Advice is offered. Stories are exchanged. The atmosphere feels safe. Comforting. Predictable. Outside, darkness deepens. Inside, warmth remains. These evenings become important memories. Perhaps not immediately. Perhaps not even years later. But somewhere within the heart, these moments endure. The sound of family voices. The smell of supper. The glow of candlelight against familiar walls. The feeling of belonging. As bedtime approaches, the household grows quieter. One by one, candles are extinguished. The fire burns lower. The youngest children grow sleepy first. Soon everyone prepares for rest. Blankets are pulled close. Rooms become dark. The city settles once more. Beyond the windows, night spreads across rooftops and chimneys. The streets grow silent. The stars emerge above drifting clouds. And throughout the Victorian world, countless children close their eyes and drift into sleep, carrying with them another day of lessons, responsibilities, friendships, routines, and small moments that slowly, almost invisibly, guide them toward adulthood long before they fully realize it. The night is deep and quiet. A thin moon hangs above the sleeping city. Its pale light rests softly on rooftops and chimneys. The streets below are nearly empty now. Only the occasional sound of distant footsteps drifts through the darkness. A gentle breeze moves between the rows of brick houses. Curtains stir slightly behind closed windows. Everything feels still. Everything feels settled. The long day has finally come to rest. Inside one small home, several children sleep side by side beneath heavy blankets. The room is modest. A simple dresser stands against one wall. A chair rests near the window. Nothing extravagant. Nothing unnecessary. Yet the room carries the warmth of familiarity. The children know every corner of it. Every creak in the floorboards. Every mark on the wall. Home is often built from familiarity rather than luxury. For Victorian children, these small spaces became entire worlds. They were places of rest. Places of comfort. Places where family gathered at the end of long days. The hours pass quietly. Far away, church bells mark the passing of time. The sound rolls gently through the darkness before fading once more. Above, clouds drift slowly across the stars. Night continues its patient journey. Eventually, the horizon begins to brighten. A faint silver glow appears in the east. Morning is approaching again. The city prepares to wake. As dawn arrives, the familiar routine begins. A mother rises first. She moves quietly through the house. The fire is lit. Water is heated. Breakfast preparations begin. Soon the scent of tea fills the room. The comforting smell spreads through the home. One by one, the children wake. Sleepy eyes blink open. Blankets are folded back. The day begins once more. Outside, the first signs of activity appear. A baker unlocks his shop. A milk cart moves along the road. Workers emerge from their homes. The city slowly stretches awake. For many Victorian children, every season brought its own challenges and routines. Life felt different in winter than it did in summer. The changing weather shaped daily experiences in countless ways. During winter, mornings arrived later. Darkness lingered longer. Cold air slipped through cracks around windows and doors. Fires became especially important. Families gathered close to their warmth. A young boy sits near the hearth on a cold winter morning. The fire crackles gently. Orange light dances across the room. Outside, frost covers rooftops. The streets glisten beneath the pale light of dawn. The warmth of the fire feels especially comforting. Soon he will leave for school. Soon the cold streets will await him. But for now he enjoys these quiet moments. The warmth. The silence. The simple comfort of home. Winter could make daily life more difficult. Travel became slower. Work often felt harder. Yet winter also brought a unique kind of coziness. Families spent more time indoors. Evenings felt longer. Stories were shared beside the fire. Children listened while adults spoke about the past. These moments strengthened family connections. They created memories that lasted long after winter ended. Then spring would eventually arrive. The cold would begin to fade. Trees would slowly show signs of new growth. The air would feel softer. The city itself seemed to breathe differently. Children noticed these changes. Everyone did. After months of gray skies and cold mornings, spring felt like a quiet gift. A young girl walks through a small park on her way home. The trees around her display fresh green leaves. Birds move among the branches. Sunlight filters through the canopy above. The world feels brighter, lighter, more hopeful. Victorian children often spent much of their lives outdoors. Walking remained an important part of daily life. Errands required walking. School required walking. Work often required walking. As a result, children experienced the changing seasons closely. They noticed the weather, the plants, the birds, the changing colors of the sky. Nature remained part of everyday life, even in crowded industrial cities. Summer brought its own atmosphere. Long daylight hours stretched far into the evening. The streets remained active later. Windows stood open. Fresh air moved through homes. Children often appreciated the extra light. Even after work or school ended, daylight remained. The city looked different beneath the golden glow of a summer evening. A group of children walks home together. The sun hangs low above the rooftops. The sky glows softly. Their conversation drifts through the warm air. For a little while, responsibilities seem distant. The day is nearly finished. Home is waiting. Supper is waiting. Rest is waiting. These simple pleasures become especially meaningful when life is busy. As summer gradually fades, autumn arrives. Leaves begin changing color. The air grows cooler. Shadows lengthen earlier each evening. The year moves forward. Victorian childhood often followed this seasonal rhythm. One season blending gently into the next. Years passing almost unnoticed. Children growing older little by little. A boy who once seemed very young begins looking taller. A girl who once needed constant guidance now helps younger siblings. Changes happen slowly. So slowly that families may barely notice them at first. Then one day the difference becomes obvious. The child is no longer quite a child. Growing up often happens this way. Not through dramatic moments, but through gradual change. One ordinary day after another. Friendships played an important role throughout these years. Even children carrying significant responsibilities found time for companionship. Friends shared experiences. They understood one another's routines. They understood the challenges of daily life. A young apprentice meets his friend after work. The two walk together through quiet streets. Their conversation is simple. Perhaps they discuss their jobs. Perhaps they discuss future hopes. Perhaps they simply enjoy each other's company. The details hardly matter. What matters is the connection. Human beings have always needed friendship. Victorian children were no different. These relationships provided comfort, support, understanding, a sense of belonging. As evening approaches once again, families gather inside their homes. The familiar routines return. Supper is prepared. The table is set. The fire glows warmly. Outside, darkness slowly settles across the city. Inside, life feels peaceful. A mother repairs clothing while listening to her children speak. A father reads quietly beside the fire. A younger child leans against an older sibling. The scene is ordinary, yet deeply meaningful. History is filled with moments like this. Moments that never appear in official records. Moments that leave no monument behind. Yet these small experiences form the fabric of everyday life. They shape childhood. They shape families. They shape entire generations. The evening grows later. Candles burn lower. The room becomes quieter. Children begin preparing for bed. One by one they climb beneath blankets. The day's responsibilities finally end. The lessons. The work. The errands. The chores. All of it can wait until tomorrow. For now there is only rest. Only stillness. Only the comforting rhythm of sleep approaching. Outside, the city grows silent once more. The moon rises higher above the rooftops. Clouds drift lazily across the sky. A cool breeze moves through narrow streets. The world feels calm, safe, peaceful. And as countless Victorian children drift into dreams beneath the quiet night sky, another day gently fades into memory, becoming one more small step along the long and gradual path from childhood toward adulthood. The night continues its slow journey across the Victorian world. The city sleeps beneath a sky scattered with faint stars. The rooftops are dark shapes against the pale glow of the moon. Smoke no longer rises from most chimneys. The fires have burned low. The streets that were crowded only hours ago now belong to silence. A gentle wind moves through narrow alleys and along rows of brick houses. It carries the scent of damp stone and distant coal smoke. Everything feels calm. Everything feels unhurried. Inside a small home, a young boy sleeps soundly. Not long ago, he was a child who followed older siblings wherever they went. He asked questions about everything. He watched adults with curiosity. He needed guidance for the simplest tasks. Now, without fully noticing it, he has changed. He has grown taller. His voice has become deeper. His responsibilities have increased. The change happened so gradually that it felt almost invisible. This was often how Victorian childhood faded. Not suddenly. Not through one important day. But through thousands of ordinary days woven together. One morning after another. One season after another. One year after another. The hours pass quietly. Eventually, dawn begins to appear beyond the rooftops. A pale silver light spreads across the horizon. The darkness softens. Windows begin reflecting the first signs of morning. Another day is arriving. Inside homes across the city, families begin waking. The familiar routine returns. Fires are lit. Water is heated. Breakfast is prepared. Children rise from their beds. Parents prepare for work. The household slowly comes to life. For older Victorian children and teenagers, these years often brought new expectations. Families frequently depended on them more than before. Tasks that once belonged to adults alone gradually became shared responsibilities. An older son might help support younger brothers and sisters. An older daughter might take on greater household duties. The family relied on them, trusted them, needed them, and so they learned to carry more weight upon their shoulders. A teenage girl stands beside her mother in the kitchen. Morning light enters through the window. The room feels warm despite the cool air outside. Together they prepare breakfast. The movements seem effortless. Years of practice have created confidence. The daughter already knows many of the routines. She understands how to manage tasks that once appeared complicated. Her mother no longer needs to explain every detail. Knowledge has quietly passed from one generation to the next. This transfer of knowledge happened constantly in Victorian life. Skills were learned through participation, through observation, through repetition. A child watched, then helped, then eventually taught others. The process unfolded naturally, as steady as the changing seasons. Outside, the city awakens. Workers appear in the streets. Shopkeepers prepare for customers. Carriages begin moving once again. The familiar sounds of daily life fill the air. The city feels alive, busy, purposeful. A teenage apprentice walks toward his workshop. The journey is familiar. He has followed this route for years. The buildings seem unchanged. The streets feel familiar beneath his feet. Yet something has changed. He himself has changed. When he first began learning his trade, everything seemed large and confusing. The tools, the techniques, the expectations. Now many of those things feel natural, comfortable. The workshop no longer feels intimidating. It feels familiar, almost like a second home. Growing up often means becoming comfortable with responsibilities that once felt overwhelming. This transformation rarely happens all at once. It develops quietly, one day at a time. Inside the workshop, sunlight streams through tall windows. Dust floats lazily through beams of light. Workers focus on their tasks. The atmosphere feels steady, calm. The apprentice begins working. His hands move with growing confidence. Mistakes still happen occasionally. Learning never fully ends. Yet experience now guides him. The years have taught him much. Throughout Victorian Britain, many young people experienced similar transitions. The teenage years often marked a period of increasing independence. Children began making more decisions, accepting greater responsibilities, thinking more seriously about the future. Yet they remained closely connected to family life. Family remained central. Family remained important. Most evenings still ended beneath the same roof, at the same table, beside the same fire. A young girl walks home through the late afternoon sunlight. The streets glow softly beneath the golden light. The city feels different at this hour. Less hurried, less crowded. Shadows stretch across the pavement. The day's work is slowly winding down. As she walks, She passes places filled with memories. The school she attended years earlier. The bakery she visited with her mother. The corner where she often met friends. These familiar locations remind her how much time has passed. Growing up sometimes feels strange. The world remains the same. Yet the person moving through it slowly changes. Victorian children experienced this feeling too, even if they described it differently. The years moved steadily forward. Childhood gradually slipped behind them. New responsibilities waited ahead. Still, traces of childhood remained. Favorite places. Old friendships. Simple memories. The comfort of familiar routines. These things stayed with them. As afternoon becomes evening, factory whistles echo across the city once more. Workers begin heading home. Shops prepare to close. The rhythm of the day begins its familiar descent toward night. Families gather. Supper is prepared. Windows glow with candlelight. The city softens. Inside one home, several generations sit together. Grandparents. Parents. Children. The room feels warm. The fire burns steadily. Conversation drifts gently through the air. Stories are shared. Advice is offered. Laughter appears occasionally. Nothing dramatic happens. Nothing historic. Yet these ordinary gatherings hold great importance. They provide stability. They provide connection. They provide a sense of belonging. Many Victorian children grew into adulthood surrounded by these evening rituals. The daily routine could be demanding. Yet family life often provided comfort at the end of long days. A teenage boy listens as his grandfather tells a story from many years earlier. The details are familiar. He has heard parts of it before. Yet he listens anyway. The voice itself feels comforting. The memory of shared evenings becomes part of family history. One generation passing experiences to another. The fire crackles softly nearby. Outside, darkness gathers. The city grows quieter. Rain begins tapping gently against the window. A peaceful sound. Steady. Rhythmic. The kind of sound that encourages reflection. As the evening progresses, thoughts often turn toward the future. Older children sometimes wonder what their lives will become. Where they will work. What responsibilities they will carry. What kind of homes they might one day create for themselves. Such thoughts are natural. Every generation wonders about the future. Victorian children were no exception. Yet the future often seemed less distant than it does during modern childhood. Responsibilities arrived earlier. Adult roles approached sooner. The transition happened gradually but steadily. A young apprentice might soon become a skilled worker. A daughter helping her mother might soon manage a household of her own. Life moved forward. Patiently. Quietly. Inevitably. The evening grows late. Candles burn lower. The fire settles into glowing embers. Children and teenagers prepare for bed. The household becomes quieter with each passing minute. Doors close softly. Footsteps fade. Voices become whispers. Outside, the rain continues falling. The streets glisten beneath the lamps. Reflections shimmer across wet cobblestones. The city seems peaceful now. Far removed from the activity of the day. One by one, family members settle beneath blankets. The familiar comfort of home surrounds them. Tomorrow will bring another day. Another collection of tasks. Another series of small experiences. Another step along life's path. And as sleep slowly arrives, countless young people across the Victorian world drift into dreams while the rain whispers softly against rooftops and windows, carrying the city gently through another calm and quiet night. The rain continues long into the night. It falls softly upon rooftops, chimneys, and narrow streets. Water gathers along gutters and quietly follows its path through the sleeping city. The lamps glow faintly through the mist. Their reflections shimmer across wet cobblestones. Everything appears softened, muted, gentle. The busy world of daylight feels very far away now. Inside warm homes, families rest peacefully. The day's work has ended. The conversations have faded. The fires have settled into glowing embers. Only occasional sounds disturb the silence. A floorboard creaks. The wind brushes against a window. A clock quietly marks another passing hour. For Victorian children, these quiet nighttime moments often provided the deepest rest they would know all day. Many days were filled with responsibilities. Many days followed strict routines. Sleep became precious. A welcome pause between one day and the next. A young girl sleeps beside her younger sister. The room is dark except for a faint glow from the dying fire downstairs. Rain taps softly against the window. The sound is comforting. Steady. Predictable. The kind of sound that encourages deep sleep. Outside, clouds drift across the sky. The city remains silent beneath them. Eventually the night begins to fade. The rain slows. The clouds break apart. A pale morning light appears beyond the horizon. Another day is arriving. The city prepares to wake once more. Morning comes quietly at first. Then gradually the familiar sounds return. A cart moving through the street. A door opening. A distant whistle. The city slowly stretches awake. Inside countless homes, children rise from their beds. Some are still young. Others now stand at the edge of adulthood. The years have passed steadily. Almost unnoticed. A boy who once delivered small packages now carries greater responsibilities. A girl who once followed her mother through crowded markets now performs many tasks herself. Time changes people gently. Almost invisibly. Victorian childhood often seemed short not because it lacked joy, but because responsibility arrived early. Life encouraged maturity. Families depended upon it. Communities expected it. The world moved quickly, and children learned to move with it. The morning light fills a small kitchen. A teenage girl helps prepare breakfast. She works confidently. Her hands know exactly what to do. Years of practice guide every movement. The kettle is placed correctly. The bread is prepared. The table is arranged. No one needs to instruct her anymore. The knowledge has become part of her. This quiet growth happened throughout Victorian society. Children gradually became capable adults through participation in daily life. Skills accumulated one day at a time. Patience accumulated one day at a time. Experience accumulated one day at a time. There was rarely a single moment when everything changed. Instead, life unfolded through countless ordinary mornings like this one. Outside, sunlight brightens the city. The streets grow busy. Shopkeepers prepare for customers. Workers begin their journeys. The familiar rhythm returns. A young apprentice walks toward his workshop beneath a sky streaked with soft clouds. The air feels cool and fresh after the night's rain. As he walks, he notices how familiar everything has become. The streets. The buildings. The people he passes each morning. These surroundings have shaped much of his life. They have watched him grow. Though of course the buildings themselves remain silent, unchanging, patient. Many Victorian towns changed rapidly during these years. New streets appeared. New businesses opened. Railways expanded. Factories grew larger. Yet daily life often continued with remarkable consistency. People still woke early. People still worked hard. Families still gathered around evening fires. Children still moved steadily toward adulthood. Beneath the changes, familiar rhythms remained. Inside the workshop, the day begins. Tools rest neatly upon benches. Sunlight enters through tall windows. Dust drifts lazily through the air. The atmosphere feels calm, focused. The apprentice begins his work. Years earlier, he watched others perform these tasks. Now newer apprentices watch him. The cycle continues. Knowledge moves from one generation to the next. Quietly. Naturally. Without ceremony. This passing of knowledge shaped much of Victorian life. Children learned from adults. Then eventually taught younger children themselves. The process never truly stopped. A young woman walks through a market during the afternoon. Not long ago, she would have accompanied her mother here. Today she shops independently. She knows which vendors to visit. She understands prices. She recognizes quality. The confidence comes from years of observation and experience. Growing older often means discovering that familiar places feel different. Not because the places have changed. Because you have changed. Victorian children experienced this transformation just as people do today. The streets remain the same. The market remained the same. The church bells remained the same. Yet the person hearing those bells slowly became someone new. The afternoon unfolds gently. Clouds drift across the sky. The city moves through another ordinary day. In a nearby neighborhood, children play briefly in a small open space between rows of houses. Their laughter echoes softly. For a few moments, work and responsibilities fade into the background. They chase one another. Invent games. Share stories. Childhood remains present. Even during years of growing responsibility. Even as adulthood approaches. Moments of play continue to appear. Moments of imagination continue to appear. The human spirit always makes room for them. As the children play, older teenagers pass by on errands. Some smile as they watch. Perhaps remembering when they themselves were younger. When their own responsibilities felt smaller. Time has a way of moving quietly. One day blends into the next. Years pass almost unnoticed until suddenly a child has become nearly grown. The afternoon slowly becomes evening. The sunlight softens. Long shadows stretch across streets and rooftops. Factory whistles echo once again through the city. The familiar signal marks the end of another working day. Workers begin heading home. The pace slows. The atmosphere changes. The city seems to exhale. A young man returns home after work. His younger brother greets him at the door. The two exchange a few words before entering the warm kitchen. Inside, supper is already being prepared. The scent fills the room. The fire glows steadily. The familiar comforts of home wait inside. Family life remained deeply important throughout the Victorian era. No matter how demanding work became. No matter how quickly cities expanded. The home remained a place of return. A place of rest. A place of connection. Evening gathers outside. Darkness settles gradually across the rooftops. Inside, candlelight flickers gently against walls. Family members share stories from the day. A younger child speaks excitedly about something learned at school. An older sibling describes a task completed successfully. Parents listen. Advice is offered. Encouragement is given. The conversation flows naturally. Nothing remarkable. Nothing historic. Yet deeply meaningful. These ordinary evenings formed the foundation of countless lives. History often remembers major events. But most people experienced history through moments like these. A shared meal. A familiar room. The voices of loved ones nearby. As the night deepens, the household grows quiet. The fire burns lower. The candles shorten. One by one, family members prepare for sleep. Tomorrow will bring another day. Another routine. Another collection of responsibilities. Another opportunity to learn and grow. The years continue moving forward. Steadily. Patiently. Like a river flowing toward the sea. And as the city settles beneath the stars once more, countless Victorian children and teenagers drift into peaceful sleep, unaware of how quickly time is carrying them forward, gently transforming ordinary days into cherished memories and childhood into adulthood. The city rests beneath a calm and cloudless sky. The rain from previous nights has passed. The air feels clear. Cool. Quiet. Above the rooftops, stars shine softly through the darkness. Their light is faint compared to the lamps below, yet they remain steady, watching over the sleeping streets. Most windows are dark now. Most fires have burned low. The great industrial city, so busy during daylight, has finally become still. Only the occasional sound of a distant carriage drifts through the night. A horse's hooves echo briefly against stone. Then silence returns. Inside a narrow brick home, a family sleeps peacefully. The youngest child curls beneath a blanket. Nearby, older brothers and sisters rest after another long day. Years ago, these older children were small enough to be carried. Small enough to sit beside the fire listening to stories without understanding every word. Now they are growing taller. Stronger. More capable. The transformation happened gradually. So gradually that nobody noticed every step along the way. That is often how life unfolds. The biggest changes arrive quietly. One ordinary day after another. One season after another. One year after another. The night continues. The stars slowly cross the sky. The city remains silent. Eventually, somewhere in the distance, a rooster calls. The sound feels lonely in the darkness. Then another answers. Morning is approaching. The eastern horizon begins to brighten. The rooftops emerge from shadow. Windows catch the first pale light. Another Victorian day begins. Inside homes throughout the city, familiar routines awaken once more. A mother lights the morning fire. A father buttons his coat. Children rub sleep from their eyes. The kettle begins to warm. The scent of tea slowly fills the room. Everything feels familiar. Comforting. Predictable. Many Victorian families depended upon routine because routine created order. Life could be uncertain in many ways. Work opportunities changed. Prices changed. Weather changed. Yet daily habits remained dependable. The same breakfast table. The same walk to work. The same evening meal. These routines provided stability. Children grew up surrounded by them. A teenage boy sits quietly finishing breakfast. Morning sunlight enters through the window beside him. Outside, the city is already beginning to stir. Soon he will leave for another day of work. The prospect does not seem unusual. It has become part of life. Part of growing up. Many Victorian children accepted responsibilities not because they enjoyed every task, but because responsibility felt normal. It was woven into everyday life. Family needs came first. Practical duties came first. Contribution mattered. And through these expectations, children often matured quickly. Not all at once. Not through hardship alone. But through participation. Through being needed. Through learning that their efforts mattered. Outside, the streets gradually fill. Shopkeepers sweep their doorways. Delivery carts roll along familiar routes. Workers cross intersections beneath the morning sky. The city wakes with purpose. A young woman walks toward a dressmaker's shop where she has been learning for several years. Her footsteps are steady. Confident. She remembers her first days there. Everything had seemed unfamiliar. The tools. The fabrics. The expectations. Now those things feel natural. The shop has become part of her daily life. She understands the work. She understands her role. The years have quietly transformed her from a nervous beginner into a skilled helper. This pattern repeated across Victorian Britain. Children entered workplaces young. Over time they gained knowledge, confidence, experience. The transformation rarely attracted attention because it happened slowly. Yet it shaped entire lives. Inside the dressmaker's shop, sunlight falls across folded fabrics. Needles move carefully through cloth. The room feels peaceful despite the steady work. Conversation drifts quietly between workers. Hands remain busy. The atmosphere carries a sense of concentration and calm. The young woman takes pride in her work. Not because it is perfect. Not because it is easy. But because she has learned it well. Learning a skill often brought a quiet sense of accomplishment. Victorian children who mastered trades, crafts, or responsibilities gained something valuable. Confidence in their own abilities. A belief that they could contribute meaningfully to the world around them. Meanwhile, across the city, another young person spends the day helping in a family business. The shop is small. The shelves are neatly arranged. Customers arrive throughout the day. Some are familiar faces. Neighbors. Friends. Regular visitors. The young assistant greets them politely. Answers simple questions. Carries supplies when needed. The work is steady. Predictable. Comfortable. Community often played an important role in Victorian life. People frequently knew those who lived nearby. The same faces appeared day after day. Children grew up surrounded by neighbors they recognized. Shopkeepers who knew their names. Teachers who knew their families. Workers who greeted them each morning. These connections created a sense of belonging. A feeling that one was part of something larger. The afternoon arrives. Sunlight warms brick walls. The city hums with activity. Yet beneath the movement lies a deeper rhythm. A rhythm created by countless ordinary lives unfolding together. A baker preparing bread. A teacher guiding students. A carpenter shaping wood. A mother tending a household. A child learning new responsibilities. These quiet routines formed the true heartbeat of Victorian society. A young boy pauses during an errand to watch workers repairing part of a road. He stands for a moment observing. The workers move carefully. Methodically. Each person knows what to do. The boy watches with curiosity. Children often spent time observing adults at work. The world itself became a classroom. Practical knowledge surrounded them everywhere. They learned by seeing, by helping, by participating. Experience taught lessons that books alone could not provide. Clouds drift across the afternoon sky. The sunlight softens. The day begins moving toward evening. Once again the familiar signals appear. Shops prepare to close. Customers head home. Factory whistles sound across distant neighborhoods. The city slowly changes pace. A young apprentice finishes his work and steps outside. The air feels pleasant. The evening sky glows with soft colors. Orange, gold, pale violet. He pauses briefly before beginning the walk home. The moment feels peaceful. The city appears gentler at this hour. Less hurried. More reflective. As he walks, he passes familiar buildings. Some seem unchanged from his earliest memories. Others have been rebuilt or expanded. Cities evolve over time. Yet memories remain attached to places. A street corner. A doorway. A market stall. Each location carries fragments of personal history. Growing up means accumulating these memories. Layer upon layer. Year after year. The apprentice reaches home. Warm light shines through the windows. The sight immediately brings comfort. Inside, supper is waiting. Family members gather around a table. The room feels welcoming. Safe. The fire crackles softly nearby. Voices fill the space. The conversation is simple. The events of the day are shared. A younger child describes a lesson learned at school. Someone else mentions a customer from the market. Another family member speaks about tomorrow's plans. Nothing extraordinary. Just life unfolding naturally. These evening conversations help connect generations. Parents passed along advice. Children shared their experiences. Families strengthened their bonds through ordinary moments. Outside, darkness slowly settles across the city. One by one, lamps appear along the streets. The evening deepens. The household grows quieter. The fire burns lower. Candles flicker gently. A sense of peace settles over the room. As bedtime approaches, the youngest children grow sleepy. Older brothers and sisters remain awake a little longer. Yet eventually everyone prepares for rest. The day has reached its end. Another page has quietly turned. Another ordinary Victorian day has become part of memory. Outside, the stars shine above the rooftops once more. The city gradually falls silent. And as countless young people drift into sleep beneath the calm night sky, time continues its gentle work, carrying them steadily forward through the years, teaching them, shaping them, and helping them grow long before they fully understand how much they have changed. The stars remain overhead long after the city has fallen asleep. Their pale light reaches down through the cool night air and settles softly upon rooftops, chimneys, and silent streets. The lamps burn lower. The fires fade into glowing embers. The noise of the day has completely disappeared. Only the occasional whisper of wind moves through the narrow lanes between houses. Everything feels distant. Everything feels still. Inside a small Victorian home, a young man sleeps in the same room where he spent much of his childhood. The room looks familiar. The walls are unchanged. The window faces the same street. The floorboards creak in the same places they always have. Yet something is different. The child who once lived here has slowly begun to disappear. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. but little by little, year after year, the years have been quietly doing their work. The responsibilities have increased. The expectations have grown. The future feels closer now than it once did. Many Victorian children experienced this gradual transition. One day they were helping with simple household tasks. A few years later they were carrying responsibilities that affected entire families. The process often happened so naturally that nobody stopped to notice. Life simply continued moving forward. The night drifts onward. Clouds slide slowly across the moon. The city remains peaceful. Then, as always, morning begins its return. The eastern sky brightens. The darkness softens. The rooftops emerge from shadow. Another day is arriving. Inside homes throughout the city, fires are lit once more. Kettles begin to warm. Doors open. Footsteps sound across wooden floors. The familiar rhythm begins again. For older teenagers and young adults, these years often brought thoughts about the future. Not necessarily grand dreams. Not dramatic ambitions. Often the hopes were simple. Steady work. A comfortable home. A secure future. The chance to care for family. These goals reflected the practical nature of Victorian life. Most people focused on stability. On creating a life built upon reliability and effort. A young woman stands beside a window while the morning light enters the room. She pauses briefly before beginning the day's tasks. Outside, workers move along the street below. The city awakens around her. She has lived in this neighborhood her entire life. The sights are familiar. The sounds are familiar. Yet she notices how much has changed over the years. New buildings have appeared. Old shops have disappeared. Children she once played with are now adults with responsibilities of their own. Time moves quietly, but it never stands still. Victorian cities were constantly changing. Railway stations expanded. Factories grew larger. New neighborhoods appeared. Entire streets transformed over the course of a few years. Children who grew up in these places often witnessed remarkable changes without fully realizing it. The city evolved around them while they themselves were growing. A young apprentice walks toward work beneath a sky filled with soft morning clouds. The air feels cool, fresh, comfortable. As he passes through familiar streets, he notices workers repairing part of a building. The structure has stood there for years. Now it is being improved, renewed. Even cities require care. Even cities grow and change. The same could be said for the people living within them. Inside a workshop, the day begins as it always does. Tools are arranged. Materials are prepared. Workers settle into familiar routines. The apprentice who once watched others now performs many tasks independently. His confidence has grown. His skills have improved. Years of steady effort have transformed him. This gradual mastery of work formed an important part of Victorian life. Children entered adulthood not through ceremonies alone, but through competence. Through learning. Through experience. The ability to contribute carried great meaning. It created pride, purpose, belonging. Across town, a family business opens its doors for another day. Shelves are organized. Windows are cleaned. Goods are arranged neatly. The younger members of the family assist with preparations. They have done so for years. The work feels natural now. Almost automatic. Yet beneath these simple actions lies something important. Trust. Responsibility. Families relied upon one another. Children learn that their efforts mattered, that even small contributions helped the household succeed. This understanding often encouraged maturity at an early age. Not because childhood vanished, but because responsibility existed alongside it. The morning passes peacefully. Sunlight brightens the streets. Customers arrive. Conversations drift through shops and markets. The city hums with quiet activity. At midday, church bells ring in the distance. Their sound rolls across rooftops and through open windows. People pause briefly, then continue with their work. The bells become part of the rhythm of daily life. A familiar sound repeated throughout the years. Many Victorian children measured time not by clocks alone, but by these recurring signals. The church bells. The factory whistles. The opening of markets. The lighting of evening lamps. These events divided the day into familiar chapters. A young man pauses during his lunch break and sits on a bench near a small square. The sunlight feels warm upon his face. Nearby, children play. Their laughter rises gently into the air. For a moment he watches them. Perhaps he remembers his own childhood. Perhaps he remembers running through streets without thinking about work or responsibility. Those days feel distant now, yet not forgotten. Childhood memories often remain surprisingly vivid. A familiar smell. A favorite street. The sound of a parent's voice. Such memories stay with people throughout their lives. The afternoon continues. Clouds drift lazily overhead. The city moves through another ordinary day. Yet ordinary days are what create a lifetime. Not dramatic events. Not rare occasions. The true shape of life emerges from repeated moments. Repeated routines. Repeated acts of care and effort. A young woman helps her mother prepare an evening meal. The kitchen feels warm. Comfortable. The scent of baking bread fills the room. Outside, the sunlight begins to fade. The day slowly approaches its end. As they work together, conversation flows naturally. Family stories are shared. Memories are recalled. Advice is offered. Knowledge continues passing from one generation to the next. These moments often seem small at the time. Yet they become treasured memories later. The simple act of working together. The simple act of sharing time. The afternoon softens into evening. Golden light settles across rooftops. Windows glow warmly. The city begins slowing down. Workers head home. Shops close their doors. The pace becomes gentler. A sense of calm spreads through the streets. Families gather once more around supper tables. The familiar evening ritual begins. Food is shared. Stories are exchanged. Laughter appears occasionally. The fire crackles softly nearby. Outside, darkness gradually arrives. Inside, warmth remains. For Victorian families, these evening hours often provided the most valuable part of the day. The chance to be together. The chance to rest. The chance to enjoy a few peaceful moments before tomorrow arrived. A father speaks about changes he has witnessed over the years. A mother remembers neighbors who moved away long ago. Children listen quietly. The stories connect generations. They remind everyone that time continues moving forward. The city changes. People change. Children grow. Adults grow older. Nothing remains exactly the same. Yet some things endure. Family. Community. Routine. The comfort of familiar voices gathered around a warm fire. The evening grows later. Candles burn low. The room becomes quieter. One by one, family members prepare for bed. The day's responsibilities have ended. The city outside grows silent. The stars appear once more above the rooftops. A cool breeze drifts through the night air. Everything feels peaceful. Everything feels settled. And as countless Victorian children who are no longer quite children drift into sleep, the years continue their gentle work, carrying them steadily toward adulthood through ordinary days, familiar routines, and the quiet passage of time that shapes every human life. The city sleeps beneath a blanket of quiet darkness. The lamps that line the streets glow softly in the night air. Their light falls across cobblestones polished smooth by countless footsteps. The rooftops rest beneath the stars. The chimneys stand silent. Even the busiest roads seem peaceful now. The great movement of the day has finally come to rest. Inside homes throughout the city, families sleep. Parents, grandparents, children, brothers and sisters. Entire lives gathered beneath simple roofs. The rooms are quiet except for the gentle sounds of breathing and the occasional settling of old wooden floors. The night feels calm, safe, comforting. A young woman lies awake for a few moments before sleep arrives. The room around her is familiar. She has known it for many years. The window, the chair near the wall, the small shelf holding treasured belongings. These ordinary objects have witnessed her childhood. They have watched the years pass. They have remained while she herself has slowly changed. Not long ago she was a little girl helping with simple chores. Now she stands at the threshold of adulthood. The change feels both gradual and surprising. That is often the nature of growing older. Life moves so slowly that changes are difficult to notice. Until one day they suddenly seem obvious. Outside, a cloud drifts across the moon. The room darkens slightly. The city remains asleep. The hours pass. And eventually, morning begins its quiet return. The eastern horizon grows pale. The darkness softens. The rooftops emerge from shadow. A new day arrives. As always, the city begins waking one household at a time. A fire is lit. A kettle is placed above the flames. A door opens. Footsteps cross a floor. The familiar rhythm returns. Victorian life often followed patterns that changed very little from day to day. Yet over the years, those patterns slowly transformed people. Responsibility shaped character. Routine shaped habits. Experience shaped confidence. Children became adults almost without realizing it. A young man prepares for work as sunlight enters through the kitchen window. The room feels warm, comfortable. His parents sit nearby. The morning conversation is quiet, easy, familiar. These shared breakfasts have been part of life for many years. The details vary. The faces grow older. Yet the ritual remains. Such routines provided stability during times of change. And the Victorian world was changing constantly. New buildings appeared. Railways connected distant places. Cities expanded beyond their old boundaries. Entire neighborhoods grew where fields once stood. For older generations, these changes could feel remarkable. For younger generations, they often felt normal. A teenage boy walking through the city might see construction taking place on a street he had known since childhood. Brick by brick, the landscape changed. The city evolved. Just as he himself was evolving. The two journeys happened side by side. Morning brightens into afternoon. The city hums with activity. Market stalls welcome customers. Shops open their doors. Workshops fill with the sounds of labor. Carriages move steadily through busy streets. The familiar rhythm continues. A young apprentice carefully completes a task he once struggled to perform. His movements are steady now. Confident. Experience guides him. Years earlier he watched others perform the same work. Now newer apprentices watch him. The cycle continues. Knowledge passes forward. Generation after generation. The apprentice notices this occasionally. How quickly time seems to move. How recently he felt like a beginner. Yet here he is now, helping others learn. Life advances quietly. Often without announcement. Across the city, a young woman assists in managing household responsibilities. Tasks that once belonged entirely to her mother now belong partly to her as well. Meals are prepared. Schedules are organized. Supplies are managed. The responsibilities feel natural. Not because they are easy. Because she has been learning them for years. Victorian children often spent much of their youth preparing for adult roles. Sometimes intentionally. Sometimes simply by participating in family life. The lessons accumulated slowly. A child observed. Then practiced. Then mastered. By adulthood, many tasks felt familiar because they had been part of everyday life for so long. The afternoon sunlight spills across rooftops and narrow streets. Clouds drift overhead. The city continues moving through another ordinary day. Yet beneath the surface, important changes are taking place. Friendships deepen. Families evolve. Young people begin imagining futures of their own. Perhaps a home of their own someday. A family of their own someday. Such thoughts arrive gradually. Like everything else. Nothing feels rushed. The future unfolds one day at a time. A young man walks home through the late afternoon. The sunlight glows softly against the brick buildings around him. Children play nearby. Their laughter drifts through the air. He watches them for a moment. Perhaps they remind him of younger days. Of games played in these same streets. Of summers that now feel distant. Memory has a gentle way of returning when least expected. A familiar corner. A familiar voice. A familiar smell. Suddenly the past feels very close. Victorian adults often carried childhood memories much as people do today. The places of youth remained important. The people remained important. The small moments remained important. As evening approaches, the city begins slowing once again. Factory whistles echo across neighborhoods. Shopkeepers prepare to close. Customers make final purchases. The pace softens. The day begins settling toward rest. Inside homes, supper preparations begin. The scent of food drifts through open windows. Fires glow warmly. Tables are arranged. Families gather. These evening meals remain one of the most important rituals of daily life. No matter how busy the day has been. No matter how much the city changes outside. The evening meal brings people together. A family sits around a table illuminated by candlelight. The room feels warm despite the cool air beyond the walls. Conversation moves naturally from one topic to another. Work. Neighbors. Plans for tomorrow. Memories from years gone by. The younger children listen. The older children contribute more. The balance has shifted gradually over time. Those who once listened quietly now share their own experiences. Their own opinions. Their own stories. Another sign that childhood is fading. Another sign that adulthood is approaching. The candles flicker gently. The fire crackles nearby. Outside, darkness spreads across the city. The familiar atmosphere of evening settles over everything. Comfortable. Predictable. Peaceful. As the night deepens, thoughts often become reflective. People consider the years that have passed. The changes that have occurred. The hopes that remain. A mother notices how tall her son has become. A father notices how capable his daughter has become. Such observations arrive quietly. Sometimes with pride. Sometimes with a touch of surprise. The years seem long while they are happening. Then suddenly they seem short. This feeling existed in Victorian homes just as it exists today. Time moves steadily. Patiently. Without pause. The evening grows late. Candles burn lower. The youngest children grow sleepy. One by one, family members prepare for bed. The household becomes quieter. The fire settles into glowing embers. Outside, the city falls silent beneath the stars. The streets empty. The lamps shine softly. The rooftops rest beneath the night sky. And as another peaceful Victorian day slips gently into memory, countless young people drift toward sleep, carrying with them the lessons, routines, friendships, responsibilities, and quiet experiences that have shaped them year after year, guiding them almost unnoticed from childhood toward the wider world waiting beyond the horizon. And now, as our quiet journey through Victorian life gently draws toward its resting place, the city itself begins to grow still once more. The streets are empty. The shops are dark. The factory whistles have long since fallen silent. Only a few lamps remain glowing along distant roads, casting warm circles of light upon the cobblestones below. The night air is cool. A soft breeze drifts between rows of brick houses. Clouds move slowly across the sky. Above them, countless stars shine patiently through the darkness. Inside homes throughout the city, families sleep. Parents rest after years of labor. Children sleep after days that seemed ordinary at the time, yet quietly shaped the course of their lives. The little boys and girls who once hurried through crowded streets have grown. The apprentices have become skilled workers. The daughters who learned beside their mothers have become confident women. The years have moved forward exactly as years always do. Quietly. Steadily. Without announcing themselves. Many Victorian children grew up faster than their years might suggest. Not because they stopped being children. Not because joy disappeared from their lives. But because responsibility arrived early and stayed close beside them. They learned through experience. Through routine. Through helping. Through being needed. And yet, beneath every responsibility, childhood remained. In friendships. In laughter. In family stories shared beside warm fires. In simple walks through familiar streets. In moments spent watching clouds drift above rooftops. In memories carried quietly through the years. Now the city sleeps beneath the night sky. The chimneys stand silent. The windows are dark. The streets rest peacefully beneath the moon. Somewhere far away, a church bell softly marks the passing hour. Its sound drifts across the sleeping rooftops before fading gently into the darkness. Everything grows quieter. The wind softens. The city settles. The night deepens. And as the stars continue their slow journey above Victorian Britain, the people below rest peacefully beneath blankets and dreams. The fires have faded into embers. The voices have become silence. The day's work is finished. Nothing more is required. Nothing more is expected. Only rest. Only stillness. only the calm comfort of night. And so we leave the Victorian world sleeping peacefully beneath the stars, while a cool night breeze drifts softly through quiet streets and across silent rooftops. The city rests. The families rest. The children rest. And beside the gentle silence of the sleeping night, history itself slowly fades into darkness. Until there is only quiet and sleep.